Hello, this is Dr. Martin. I am making this Memgram Orientation video so that you can be as prepared as possible for our Memgram Orientation session. And we'll be using your Memgram chart that was sent to you in a previous email. It's probably entitled Memgram Orientation Level 1. So if you can find your chart, make sure you have your chart in front of you. If you don't have it, please pause the video and click play again after you have located it and have it in front of you. Okay, at the top of the Memgram chart, right under organ trauma sequence, you'll find a chain of numbers. These numbers represent glands and organs. From here on, I'll just refer to them as organs. You can think of them as a chain of dominoes. The left one, which is the past cause, knocking over the next one, the next one, the next one, until you reach the right side, which is the present. So the present is what we refer to as the present day problem, but in actuality the real culprit was way back here at the beginning, which we call the past cause. Everything stems from this chain right here. Without this chain, we would have no chart. We have used your submitted data to assign a heat intensity rating to each of 24 organs. And so, in other words, there's 24 organs in this study. And we can do this by using either a questionnaire, which is subjective, or a urine and saliva test, which we call the BIA, which is objective. We prefer to use the subjective data because we have learned that it's closer to your consciousness, so you will be able to more easily connect to what we are showing you here on your chart. So I think it's important for you to kind of have an idea of how this chain came to be, or how we created it, what went into it. And then in order to do that, I like to use the following analogy to illustrate the importance of the heat rating. Imagine that you are decorating a Christmas tree that is loaded with lights that demands a large amount of power to be delivered to it. You go to plug it in, but the tree is too far from the outlet, and you need an extension cord, and all you have is a puny little extension cord, but you use it anyway. The tree lights beautifully, and you leave for a while. And when you come back, you smell something. The puny extension cord has become very hot, to the point of smelling like burning rubber. What do you think is going to happen to that cord? It's going to get hot because it has a lot of resistance to the electricity that is trying to travel from the wall outlet to the tree. Now, electricity is energy, and you can't block energy. Energy must and will move no matter what. So the cord gets hotter and hotter until finally it blows up, or shorts out as it is commonly termed. And the location of the blowout, or the short, is where the energy got out or was released that was trying to get from the wall outlet to the tree, but it couldn't because there was too much resistance. Okay, so people are the same way, but we can't have people blowing up just because they're stressed. So we have emotions, emotion, energy in motion, to release the heat or the pressure or the stress that gets built up. So the example I like to use is organ number 21, which is in this chain right here, 21, which is the posterior pituitary, which is involved with regulating the water balance in your body. So it has to do with water. Now, when a person attends a funeral and experiences grief, the posterior pituitary organ heats up like the wire that we talked about. It develops a resistance to the energy flow, and we can't have people blowing up just because they are grieving. So the blocked energy is released from the body through tears. And it's tears because the posterior pituitary is involved with water balance. So this is how the energy gets out of you instead of blowing you up. So the point of this discussion is that heat imprint left by the posterior pituitary organ number 21 and other glands and organs is detected by our process that we use to generate the chain. So we take your data, we assign a heat rating to each of the 24 organs, and then we calculate the average, and we make a chain out of all of the above average heat ratings, starting with the lowest heat rating on the left side, past cause, all the way over to the right, or the present effect as being the hottest. Now you will see an age in the left small box below your chain. This is the age when your chain started. Now regarding age, whenever you see an age, think 2 years on either side of the printed age. Therefore, age 7 means a span between age 5 and 9. This is as close as we can call it at this time. Alright, in your chain there are 3 key positions. You have the cause, and you have the core, and you have the effect. Also in these small boxes, 15, 20, 17 in this sample. Now these 3 key positions in the chain tell us something that's very important about you. The middle numbers, or number, core, you could have 2 numbers. Because if you have an even number of organs in your chain, then the middle is technically between 2 numbers, so we will use the 2 center numbers. This sample has a single number. So each of these 3 key positions represent a dichotomy. You have the core dichotomy, the cause dichotomy, and the effect dichotomy. Now, what's a dichotomy? Well, the physical dimension in which we live is made up of a series of dichotomies without which the physical dimension wouldn't exist. So, for example, if I say gender, you know what it means only because you are aware of the male versus female, which is the gender dichotomy. Or if I say temperature, you know what it means only because you are aware of hot versus cold, the temperature dichotomy. If I say wealth, you know what I mean only because you are aware of rich versus poor dichotomy. So we could spend all day listing the various dichotomies that make up the physical dimension. So let's look at the core dichotomy. We always start with the core. So let's look at the core dichotomy, and the dichotomies are represented by the 3 big boxes. I'm going to start with the center one here. So if we look at the middle box, it represents whatever the organ is that's in the core of your chain. Represents several things. It represents your soul pattern, which is who you really are. It's basically a gift from God. It's also the plan for your life or your strength. Now it also represents your stress pattern, or who you are not, or the plan against your life, or your weakness. You can't have one without the other, just like we can't have hot without cold, we can't have male without female, and so forth. In the physical dimension, everything is balanced in the form of a dichotomy. Now, you have a plan against your life because there is a plan for your life. And it is represented by whatever organ is in your core. Now, we sent you the soul pattern and stress pattern of the core organ that you have. So that's why you have that. I urge you to read both, because one is who you are or who you would really like to be, and the other one is who you are not, much of which you do experience now. So you have a plan against your life because there is a plan for your life. You can't have one without the other. So what is in your core is what is trying to be. And much of it is that is trying to be is the negative side, or the who you are not. So below the big center box it says, you are here to learn what it feels like to be who you are not. I'm here to learn what it feels like to be who I am not. Notice that it doesn't say to be who you are not. That would basically be impossible. It says to learn what it feels like to be who you are not. So you see, it's the job of the stress pattern to provide resistance in the form of people, places, circumstances, and events, PPCE, to make it as difficult as possible for your soul pattern to be your life. Why? Well, Earth is a school. And what produces learning? Friction is what produces life in the physical dimension. Two people rubbing together produce life, for example. The reason why we don't give a child everything he asks for every time he asks for it is because he wouldn't learn to appreciate anything. So how do we learn? We learn by our mistakes, the traumas that we have. The job of the stress pattern is a necessary one. But if it works too well and you start believing that you are the person called you in your life movie, then you end up with a body and mind that is distorted from the truth of who you really are and what you deserve to be and do and have. You have sickness. Your body is your mind made visible, and that's the whole crux of this Memgram chart, is to figure out the relationship between what's going wrong with you physically and how does that relate to what's going on between your ears. So by understanding your Memgram, you learn to understand that your life is a movie and that you have been tricked into believing that you are the character called you, instead of realizing that you are projecting that reality from your mind, that in reality you are the person sitting in the theater audience watching the movie. And of course, what's the mark of a good movie? Well, it's how much you are emotionally drawn into the movie and you totally forget you're in the chair until the end of the movie. This is what your stress pattern endeavors to do. It wants you to be emotionally involved in your life, to take everything personal, so that you will be a victim of what it is trying to be instead of being victorious. The result is a sick mind, a sick body, or both, instead of you enjoying who you really are and who and what you deserve to be, do, and have. Your stress pattern, your Memgram, feeds off of negative energy. We call this negative energy a hormone dump. You'll hear us use that term a lot, hormone dump. In other words, you are an energy generator for the dark side and don't even know it. And that's by design, because it wouldn't work otherwise. So I sent your soul pattern and your stress pattern for your core organs to you in your orientation email, and I encourage you to read these every day, because your body is your mind made visible. Your stress pattern, your Memgram, the plan against your life, involves everything your core organ represents. This is a discussion that we will have during your Memgram orientation session. You're going to find it extremely enlightening. So that's the core position. Now, if we move to the cause dichotomy, what organ is in your cause? The left big box is the cause dichotomy, represented by your mind's desire versus your body's addiction. So what we're saying here is that where the core dichotomy is your soul pattern versus your stress pattern, plan for your life versus the plan against your life, your cause dichotomy is that your body is addicted to exactly the opposite of what your mind desires, because it confuses intensity with happiness. Your mind's desire stems from your soul pattern. You have a mind's desire for your life. Where do you get that? Well, it's because of who you are. It's because of your soul pattern. Now, to help you understand the role the cause dichotomy plays in your life, when you are a baby and things are not the way you like them or want them, perhaps it's a wet diaper, dirty diaper, you're too cold, you're too hot, there's something poking you, what do? Yes, you cry. And you learn that if you cry long enough and loud enough adults will show up. And if for no other reason than to shut you up, they will discover what is wrong and fix it. Remember, your job as a child is to survive adults. And then as you grow, you gain wisdom and experience and eventually learn how to communicate your needs and desires. So the point of this story is that it was the negative stimulation, something which you innately knew to be anti your mind's desire, that caused the hormone dump that caused you to cry. This hormone dump was stimulating to the cells, so much so that your cells became addicted to it and they wanted more. In other words, the cells equate intensity with happiness. The more the merrier. And the cause dichotomy was born. So your body is addicted to exactly the opposite of what your mind desires because of the hormone dump that occurs when you experience what it is that you don't like. And all this for you is determined by what your cause organ is and the emotions associated with that. That in the sample case here was about age 5, age 3 to 7. And we will have more to say about that when we actually are talking to you about your chain. So, because your core is trying to be, the cause organ gives you an idea of how or what the core is using to be. So in other words, you got be, do, and have. Being is no fun without the experience of it. And the experience of it is the do and the have. You have or you don't have today because of what you did or didn't do yesterday. And that experience is being. So the process works by orchestrating an event or series of events when you were young, when you were the most impressionable, when you have no authority, no power, no wisdom. Events that are anti your mind's desire. Now, you innately understand that life is not happening the way you want it to be, but you are basically powerless to do anything about it. So you do what all children do. You use whatever tools you have to survive the adults. And the tool is your mind and your emotions. So the cause represents what you did or didn't do that set the stage for today's problems. The events trigger an emotional reaction that triggers a hormone dump that tells your cells there's a party going on. Because your cells do not know good from bad qualitatively, they only know it quantitatively. In other words, a lot of stress is a good thing and a little stress is a bad thing. So the hormone dump signals your cells that this negative situation is something you enjoy, and they go to work to collectively create and recreate a similar scenario using the tools at hand time and time again throughout your life. This is what we call the invisible belief system. So, well, in other words, you have an electromagnetic frequency that you emit that attracts people, places, circumstances, and events to play a movie that reminds your cells of negative scenarios that happened to you when you were young. Now, you emotionally react today just like you did then. And then the resulting hormone dump signals your cells that there's a party going on, and the process begins all over again. So the hormone dump is the payoff for a job well done by your invisible belief system that arranges the PPCE in your life to generate the same feelings that you had when you were a child. So you are unknowingly addicted to the opposite of what your mind desires. This is what gives it power over you. It's just that you're not aware of what it is doing, when it is doing it, or who it is using to do it. This is the power of memgram processing. Knowing your memgram is going to change your life. So notice your past cause organ, and we'll be talking more about this during your orientation session. Let's move over to the present effect dichotomy. Now the big box on the right is a present effect dichotomy, which is do want, don't get, or I don't want it, but I do get it. Or what your problem looks like today. It's reflected by the organ displayed on your right side of your chain. What is your organ? So the present effect represents what you have or don't have because of what you did or you didn't do in the past. Your present effect is also used as a trigger by your stress pattern, which expects you to react and respond today just like you did yesterday and the day before that, all the way back to childhood. In other words, your stress pattern wants you to be your own worst enemy when it comes to being and doing and having what you deserve and desire. Your past cause doesn't want to be discovered, so it hides behind a smoke screen, and the smoke screen is represented by what is on the right side of your chain and the corresponding emotion. The result is that your attention is on the wrong thing. You think your problem is one thing, and you spend your time, money, and energy dealing with that to no avail, because the real problem is your past cause, which set everything into motion years ago. So your past cause continues to be your present effect. Your past becomes your future as long as you continue to be in the dark regarding your invisible belief system that is really calling the shots in your body and your mind and your emotions. So as you think, so are you. Your body is your mind made visible. So let's move down here on the chart now and talk about something that is lower here. You see the list of ages. How many do you have? This person has 10 ages. These are called trauma ages. Now those ages indicate when and how many times your invisible belief system, or your memgram, has arranged the PPCE, people, places, circumstances, and events, in your life to create and recreate a scenario that resulted in enough heat or resistance to cause an emotional reaction that you likely took personally, and it resulted in a hormone dump, much like it did when you were cause age, and we can pick it up and list it here on the chart. So think of your major symptoms. I'm going to be asking you when I talk to you, I'm going to write them, actually I'm going to write them on my chart right here. I'm going to ask you, what are the top 2 or 3 things that if you could change tomorrow morning with a flick of a finger you would? You know, what are the things that you really, really need to change, want to change more than any others? So, you know, most of us would have a long list. I just want to know what the top few are. You can think of those major symptoms or major problems or major obstacles. We'll just call them a knot. Now, this knot restricts your life flow, and it contributes to you having, being, doing less than you really are, less than you deserve, less than you desire. The laws of physics state that there's only one way to permanently untie a knot. Now, of course, there are numerous ways to loosen the knot. You can go to counseling, all kinds of different counselors. You can see your priest, you can see your psychiatrist, your psychologist, your social worker. You can visit various health practitioners. You can get involved in support groups. You can visit with your minister. There's no end to the different ways to loosen the knot. All the things I just mentioned have one thing in common, and that is that they work for some people some of the time. But the problem is that eventually life is going to come full circle, and that knot is going to be tight again. All because why? Because you didn't permanently untie the knot. Now, the laws of physics says that there's only one way to permanently untie a knot. There's only one way to untie your mental and emotional knot. It must be untied in the exact reverse order in which it became tied. This is so important for you to understand. And this is the value of generating this chart. The chart shows us the exact order, and here's that order right there, in which your knot needs to be untied. Therefore, memgram processing involves processing each trauma in the exact reverse order in which they appeared. So there is a plan against your life, and that plan operates in a very organized manner. The universe operates in an organized manner. There are no coincidences. Everything is cause and effect. If you can determine the exact manner in which you created your problem, not only can you go back in time and emotionally remedy the situation, you can also ensure that you stop recreating the cycle for your future. This is exciting news. This is one of the most important discoveries of your life. Know your memgram and life changes. So, notice your ages. These are the ages at which you experienced a recordable trauma, and a trauma is defined as an experience whereby you once again experience the same feelings that you did when you experienced your past cause up here. Your cells need a regular fix, just like an addict. Once they develop the invisible belief system, they create an electromagnetic pattern that is emitted from you to attract people, places, circumstances, and events that can repeatedly give you the same feelings again and again. In other words, unbeknownst to you, your entire life has been one of bouncing from one trauma to another, always experiencing the same feelings, but distracted because it was different people, different places, different circumstances, different events. So you don't catch on that it's really just your past cause controlling you, so that your existence dichotomy, or the soul pattern versus stress pattern, can continue. Continue doing what? Generating the hormone dumps. Feed the dark side. So this is your invisible addiction. You can think of these traumas as invisible tumors that are impinging on your life flow. They're manipulating and controlling you, and you don't even know it. They must be removed. But they must be removed in the exact reverse order in which they occurred. Now, one other thing here to bring up about these ages. Most people have a cycle of somewhere between 2 and 10 years between traumas. This person's cycle appears to be about 5 to 11 years. So you should be able to see a pattern in your trauma ages. I'll be able to tell you exactly, when I speak to you, I'll be able to tell you exactly what your cycle is, how many years you can go before your cells absolutely need a fix, and you will get it. But you should be able to, like, here's a gap right here. See this 16-year gap right there? That's totally out of the ordinary for what's happening. This person, I believe, is 53, so this is current stuff here, and right there is a, so if you can, it's not that important right now for the purposes of this video, but just want to call your attention to this thing that we call a black hole. So when I start talking about a black hole, you'll kind of know what I mean. If you have a black hole, it means there's some deep, dark, controlling, manipulating energy in that time period in your life that is really calling the shots, but you can't see it. We know it's there because of the black hole, but we don't know what it is on this level. It is on a memgram level beneath this level. This is why this is called level 1. This was back before we started showing it up here on the chart. This chart is from way back in 2012. But normally there will be like an L1, meaning level 1 or level 2, depending upon what level you're on. All right, back to the discussion here about the black hole. So think of your life as an onion, and we're on the outer layer of the onion. You have layers of experience. This Memgram chart, level 1, represents your outer layer. The black hole is telling you, if you have one, is telling us that you have some deep, dark, manipulating issues on the next layer. All you have to do to discover what it is to remove the current layer, and then it exposes what's in here, in this case, between the age of 37 and 53. So how do you do that? You do that by what we call memgram processing. But first you have to define your trauma words. So we've given you words. You either have 3 words or you have 4 words here. The lowercase words, not the capital words. And those are the words that you need to grab a dictionary, read the definitions for each of the words, and write down the definitions with which you most resonate. You might even find a definition for a word that you had no idea that was a definition for the word, but it like jumps off the page at you and say, whoa, I relate to that. All right, so now you know that it's your soul pattern versus your stress pattern. You know your past cause. You know the age of your past cause. You'll find that right here. So now, and you know the trauma ages. They're right there for you, or wherever you, whatever yours are. You know the present effect of your past cause. You know how many traumas right there, or you can count up the ages. If you have, this person has 1, 2, 3, 4. This person has a quadruple whammy and a triple whammy, double whammy, triple, quadruple, or quintuple, which would be really something else. Are basically, it means you're really slow to get it. You know, it's like me walking up to you and saying, before I say hello, I slap you on the side of your face, and you stand there, wow, I didn't expect that, and then I say hello, and then I slap you on the other side of the face, and you know that'd be a double whammy, and you still haven't realized that, you know, I'm only there to cause pain, and so I rear back and I punch you in the nose. That's a triple whammy, you know. And then so finally you think, oh man, you know, I think, you know, I need to move. I need to defend myself. I need to do, you know. So that's kind of what double and triple and quadruple whammies are. Do it to me because it feels so good when you quit, or something like that. So trauma words. Let's talk about these trauma words. So trauma words are the 3 or possibly 4 if you have a double core. If you have 2 organs in your core, you're going to have 2 words in your core, and you need to look up both of them. Remember, it's the lowercase words you're looking at. You're not looking at these capital words. So trauma words are the 3 or 4 words that explain to you what each of the traumas are about. But each of these traumas has its own set of words, and we've only given you the words of the because remember, we're working in reverse order. Your orientation session, which is no obligation for you because it's about the only way that you can really experience the power of this and what it's going to do for you, is we deal with this most recent trauma first. So trauma words are the 3 or 4 words that explain to you what each of your traumas are about. We don't know the exact people or places or circumstances of events or the players that helped you experience the trauma, but we do know the trauma ages, and we know the general description of that by giving you these words. That in and of itself is absolutely amazing. So you'll see the first set of trauma words displayed on the lower portion here of your chart, to the right of the most recent trauma age. Each trauma age has its own set of trauma words. the capital words explains the dichotomy that governs your trauma. More about that when I actually speak with you. But in other words, this dichotomy is about water. And I might add too that what you can do is, so you can see this is why this word is pool. And alkaline, that's why this word is release, and acid dose. So sometimes if you're stuck about, well, I'm not sure which definition is the one I should choose and whatever, if nothing is really bouncing off the page at you, you go with the one that has to do with the capital letters, even though you're looking up the lowercase words. Okay. So I think that's enough. That's a lot of information. You might even want to go back and listen to this again, because I've used a lot of terms and maybe a philosophy here that is new to you. Maybe it's not. Maybe you've already been through some of this. If you've been through a lot of different therapies or counseling or whatever, emotional, mental, whatever, what you're going to find is you're full of black holes. You have driven your problems deeper because you did them out of order. You did not do the order. We learned this the hard way many years ago. We've been doing this work for, I think I started working on trying to figure out this Memgram chart here back in the 80s. So we've been doing this a long time, and we've seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things, and I'm telling you what, I'm 75 years old as when I made this video, and I'm as excited about this work as I was back when I was 30. So grab a dictionary, look up your words, get them defined, get on the phone, talk to my sister.